Welcome, listeners, but take heed. We will say whatever we need to share our knowledge, thoughts, and joy, and even things that do annoy. So join us now, but be aware. We have a tendency to swear. We'll dial it back a little bit.
But really, we don't give a shit.
Welcome to Just Keep Rolling, a Harry Potter book movie compare and contrast podcast. I'm Ellen.
I'm Katie.
And let's just keep rolling. As I said, my name's Ellen. I'm a Gryffindor. My wand is 11 3/4 beechwood with a dragon heartstring core. My Patronus is a weasel, just like Mr. Weasley. My undercover muggle job is elementary and middle school art teacher.
I am Katie. I am a Slytherin. My wand is ebony wood with a unicorn hair core at 10 3/4 inches. Yes. And my Patronus is a Manx cat. And I'm allergic to cats, so that's kind of weird. My undercover muggle day job is a stay-at-home mom currently, and I'm also a freelance baker.
Which is really fun because I, too, am a baker. And we are kind of hoping that maybe in the future there could be a cooking show involved as part of this podcast. So stay tuned for that.
Super excited. So we met through mutual friends.
Was it Steve or Mike first?
It was Mike. Well, Mike brought us to the trivia.
Yeah, Mike brought us together for the trivia. But did we ever meet before that? I don't remember.
We probably did, but it was probably like
mutual friends parties.
Yeah.
And we had no idea that we were both Harry Potter fans. But it was our friend Mike.
As we like to call him, our Nick Fury.
Yes, our Nick Fury. Who, and gosh, this was like, what, 3 years ago now? 3 or 4. Brought us together. He was just like, hey, I know you're a Harry Potter fan, and I know you're a Harry Potter fan. And the side quest is doing Harry Potter trivia. And I love trivia. I don't know anything about Harry Potter. But let's put together a team, and I like ask me more questions. And I'm like, Harry Potter's my drug. Yeah, like of course I'll come. Like ask me all of the Harry Potter questions. And so we met. Get together, and that was like the first time I think we officially.
That was the first time we really spoke.
Like I talked to each other. That was.
I decided that you were my Patronus.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did. I'm someone's Patronus.
Which is much more fitting than a Manx cat, for God's sakes.
At least you're not allergic to me.
Well, yet.
I really hope you don't end up allergic to me. That might make this podcast kind of hard.
It's going to make it really awkward.
Yeah. So the first time we did trivia together, we were kind of sizing each other up.
Mm-hmm. You're a little wary of each other.
Are you really Harry Potter knowledgeable? I don't
Are we just going to make fools of ourselves?
What's going to happen here? And then they started asking us questions.
And we were really glad we were on the same team.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty awesome. I think everybody else on our team was glad they were on our team, too. But it ended up being so much fun. And it was the start of something beautiful.
It really was. It was like a high.
Oh, yeah. Harry Potter is my drug of choice.
Yes.
Undoubtedly my drug of choice. And one of the coolest things about our Harry Potter friendship is we did the exact same thing with the stories, where just anytime we had nothing else to do, we'd put on Harry Potter. But she would put on the movies, and I would put on the audiobooks. Mm-hmm. And so I've become this person that just has the audiobooks memorized.
And I can recite the movies line by line.
So when you put us together, our powers combined.
Yes. We're the Harry Potter Wonder Twins, really.
Yes, that's perfect. I love that. So that's how we met. And it was my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, now he's my husband. He is the one who named all of our names, actually. Mm-hmm. We have 3 different trivia team names, and the name of this podcast can be attributed to my husband, Len. But
he's an idea man.
He is an idea man. He's so clever. But our very first trivia team name was So Hot. Want to touch Hermione. Ow!
Little Billy Madison throwback for any of those Adam Sandler fans.
And we were super obnoxious. That was our first time doing the trivia. And we howled every time they said our team name.
Ow!
Yeah, pretty much just like that.
Yeah.
We were really annoying.
I'd like to think that we've gotten a little more mellow.
We've grown as people.
Yeah, over the years. And actually, in our most recent trivia event, we tied for first.
In the nation, we missed one question, and I pulled a total Hermione, and literally, I was upset with myself. I was upset with myself that I couldn't get that one right, but I don't...
Out of every single question we had, we missed one question, and she's the one sitting there going, nearly perfect. How can you be nearly perfect?
Yeah.
Because,
it wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good enough for her.
But that was the time that I think we realized that maybe we need to move on to other things. And it kind of brought us here to do this podcast so we can get our Harry Potter fix without...
We can have our own discussions without...
Come up with our own questions. Yeah. And one of the things that really got this going is we've both been listening to another podcast about Harry Potter. It's Swish and Flick. If you guys have not checked out this podcast, you really should. It's been so inspirational to us.
They're awesome.
And they're hilarious. Mm-hmm. And they've gone into such incredible depth with the research they do for the they've been going chapter by chapter through the books. And then they bring in stuff that they read on Pottermore and Wizarding World and fan fiction and theories and going in depth they go in depth like different. Oh my gosh, it's been so much fun to listen to, and I started listening to it because I actually work with one of the girls. She's a teacher as well. Shout out to Tiffany, hey girl, and then I got Katie listening to it, and like we just started talking about it, and the next thing I knew, we're like having these really long Facebook conversations about the books and the movies and wizard genealogy. And I'm like, well, they're like, oh, look at this article that I found, and it's like, I want to keep talking about this with you. And then I kind of bullied her into this, so here we are.
I mean, I'm not saying I was bullied. I am tied to the chair right now. No one else can see this, but I mean, I might like it a little bit, so there's that.
I definitely think that I've overwhelmed her because,
well,
I was like, we're going to do a podcast. It's going to be fun. And then I was just like, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And I bought this, and I made this, and this is all happening. And I'm such a Hermione that I can't do things half-assed.
Well, meanwhile, I'm the one over here with ADD who's like, oh yeah, we'll totally do a podcast. That's fine. Thinking in the back of my head, not remembering who I'm talking to, and going, yeah, we'll forget about this in a month. Nope. We'll totally forget about it in a month. And then every week I was getting a new text message, or every day, really, I was getting a new Facebook message. It's been daily. Look what I designed. Look at this. We have a logo. We have this. We have this. And I'm just like, oh shit, this is really happening.
Yep. My very clever husband is also quite talented. Designed our logo. I kind of gave him a sketch for it. Being an art teacher, I can draw. He's just way better at the digital drawing than I am. And but he also came up with our name, Just Keep Rolling. I was saying that earlier, that's what he does, is he names things for us. We've had the Billy Madison reference. We've had Hit It and Quidditch. So one of our favorites. We kind of stuck with that one for a while. And we also did a brief spell with hats, right? D's Knuts.
Yes.
And I like to pronounce the K because that's what Jim Dale does, and also because it differentiates Knuts from actual nuts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it just sounded better as opposed to, if you're just saying D's nuts out loud, people are like, that's rude. Yeah, but if you say D's Knuts, people kind of understand.
And then when you say, suck these Knuts, when we beat you in trivia, it's funny.
Yeah,
and not
to us at least.
It was hilarious to me. We are assholes.
So join us, won't you?
Yes, please join us. Please join us. We're our whole idea with this podcast, as I said, we took a lot of inspiration from Swish and Flick and these incredible women. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't just copying them. So they've been doing the chapter by chapter book, like summary and in-depth discussions. Analysis. That's a great word.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I bring something to the table.
You bring a lot to the table. But you at least mean that I'm not sitting here talking to myself.
I mean, it might seem that way sometimes.
Yeah. I promise you, I'm not going to be the only one talking this whole time. I'm going to let Katie say things sometimes.
And I will stammer and say and a lot. But we're going to edit that out.
Yeah, as much as I can. Some of it I might leave in. It might be funny.
Yeah. Then there's me.
We had a great moment when we were trying to record our intro where I went, ah! Right, I have no idea why, but
just
it randomly happened. But yeah, so look, there's my own but like I was saying, we don't want to copy off of Swish and Flick. We want to bring something our own and new.
You know, something different to the table, basically. Yeah. And they did an episode after they finished Sorcerer's Stone where they did a comparison of the book and the movie.
And I love that idea. Mm-hmm. Since I'm the book expert and you are the movie expert, that's yes. what went into ours. We thought we could do a more in-depth comparison of the two. Compare and contrast podcast, as I called it. And so that's the basic idea for this. We want to go chapter by chapter and sum up the chapter and then compare that portion of the movie that would most relate to it.
Mm-hmm. And there are going to be times where I don't have a whole lot to say because the movie's cut out so much.
Right. And or then, when we get to the 6th movie and we're just like, is this even the same story?
Yeah. And then there's just random things like, wait a minute, why is this happening?
Why? Our goal is to every week bring you a new chapter comparison to the movie. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, we would like to include a couple other fun things. So we're going to be doing sorting hat stories. And as an example for that, Katie, why don't you share how you got into Harry Potter?
Okay. So my sorting hat story. Well, we called them sorting hat stories because what's the first thing you do when you get into Harry Potter? The very first thing you do is you go, well, which house am I in? First thing you do is sort yourself. So these are the stories that basically got us to sorting and, you know, things that got us into this. Well, I had to read Sorcerer's Stone for senior English because I'm old. And it was good. It was good, don't get me wrong, but it was a forced thing, so I didn't get as much enjoyment out of it.
Nobody likes to read something they have to read.
Yeah, and it's so funny that the things that I have read after school, that I read in school, and I was like, oh, this sucks, and then I read it after, and I'm like, oh my god, wait, this is awesome, what was wrong with me? It's just, yeah. So, and Harry Potter is one of those things, and I remember, you know, I kind of remember certain things about the story, like where I was when the big Quirrell reveal happened. I was actually sitting cleaning up a stage. I was doing stage managing for a community production of Grease. And I was like, well, I got a few minutes. I'm going to finish my book. And I remember reading about Quirrell, and I went, and one of the other actors came on and went, what is wrong with you? And I was like, oh my god, though, but the twist. They're like, oh yeah, I read that a year ago. I'm like, well,
you're behind the times.
Yeah, I really was. So I read it. It was good, and it was all right. But then after I graduated high school, the first movie came out, and it was literally I had watched it, and again I was like, this is okay, whatever. And then it came out to where it was like on not cable, but like HBO, you know, and there was nothing else on. So I was like, I'm gonna put this on, and I put it on, and I was like, I'm curious about like what happens next, what's gonna happen, you know. And then I went online, and I believe I found probably the Leaky Cauldron or MuggleNet or something like that, one of those fan sites, and there was news about the next movie, and there was, you know, and I was like, wait, there's another movie, there's more books, there's more this. I was like, well, there's just a font of information here, and just this is amazing. And I read the second book, and because I wanted to read the second book before I saw the movie. That was my biggest mistake ever. And that's just never fun. Like, when it's so fresh in your head, and then you see the movie, and you're like, but where was this? But
yeah.
I'm not okay with this. Hold on.
I like to do that. I think that's what's bringing me here. I'm such a big nerd. I love to read the book and then watch the movie and be like, how are they the same? How are they different? And now I have a whole podcast about it, so yay!
See, and that's what, for me, for a very long time, I was like, no, I have to take things separately. I have to, or else I'm just going to get angry. But now with this, I can analyze, and I can, you know, I'm older, I'm, you know, more mature.
You can unpack your feelings.
Yes, I can verbalize my issues properly without just saying, the fuck was that?
Right.
Which is basically all I
We're going to be sharing our knowledge, thoughts, joy and even things that do annoy.
Yes, exactly. And I will probably, as a warning, I will probably be the more potty-mouthed person on this
I am well
podcast.
trained in censoring myself being a teacher.
I'm not.
But if she's gonna potty mouth a lot, it's gonna slip out from time to time. So that's why we put the disclaimer up. Is I spend all day censoring myself at school, so I didn't want to have to do that again here. So here we are.
We're aware that they're children's books, but you know what?
They are 20-year-old plus children's books. The people who love them are also probably potty mouths.
So I almost got into the fandom before I got into the books themselves, as weird as that might sound. Because it was like the first thing, you do back in the day. It was the Yahoo search.
Right. That's how old we are.
Some Ask Jeeves or...
Ask Jeeves, I forgot about that, Butler.
I can't forget Ask Jeeves. He was the best. But yeah, I was doing some searches and it was like, fan fiction? What is this? There's fan fiction and there's theories and there's people make up songs and people... What is... And I got almost more into the fandom than the books at first. And I found a group online. I found a Yahoo group because, again, we're showing our age. And they were called ISPOL, which stood for the International Society of Potter Obsessed Losers. ISPOL.
ISPOL.
Shout out to my ISPOL girls and the few boys. And they became, honestly, some of my best friends. I'm still friends with them to this day. Unfortunately, we had one of our former members passed away a couple years ago, and a lot of us hadn't seen each other in many years, a decade even. We, it started off with being friends on Yahoo, and then moving to LiveJournal, and then MySpace.
We are dating ourselves.
We are. Went to MySpace, and then it came to Facebook, and here we are for the most part. But we all just kind of kept following each other through these different platforms, and so we stayed in touch, but we hadn't really seen each other. A lot of us I hadn't seen them in years and years. My last convention that I went to was in 2005 in England. And
yes, she got to go to England.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? I'm so jealous.
It was super fun. We may get into that more another day, but it's a very long story.
We do have an idea for that.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so it just
snowballed from there.
It really did. It snowballed from there. I met these people. I found out, oh my God, there are nerds like me. This is amazing. And like I said, they're still some of my best friends. They're still great people. And one of them unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. And so without even a question, it was just like, hey, who wants to go to the memorial with me? And I had my friend Lee from Canada and my friend Amber from Virginia. They were like, yeah, we'll come to Ohio. We'll meet you. And they both came over to my house. We drove to Illinois, like at 3 a.m. We left at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then as opposed to 3 a.m. at night. We left at 3 in the morning. We got to Illinois around 8. We went to the memorial. And, it just kind of showed me, like, even after all these years, like, Potter still keeps us together,
Potter brings us together, and it keeps us together.
It does. It was like the glue that, like, and we have other interests aside from that, too, all of us, A friendship is not made by Potter alone, but it's a very good foundation. It's
a really good foundation, and it is one of the best adhesives I've ever seen.
Oh, for sure.
And I work with a lot of glue. Art teacher.
Okay, so that's basically my story.
So my story, a lot different. I was 17, I want to say. And the 4th book was just about to come out. So it was the summer before my junior year of high school. And I have a younger brother who's 7 years younger than me. So he was 10 at the time. And he is going on about these Harry Potter books. And I guess with the 4th one about to come out, he and my mom were talking about going to the bookstore to pick it up. And I'm just like, what are these Harry Potter books? And she said, oh, you should read them. You'd actually really like them. And I was one of those kids growing up that read everything I could get my hands on. I'd get in trouble at night when I was supposed to be asleep, and I'd be reading under my covers by flashlight. And I could never figure out how my mom always knew I was doing that, except then when I got older, she confessed to me that she actually used to do that too. So she just knew that I was that kind of bookworm with as much as I read.
She knew what was up.
She knew. But, yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, they go to the bookstore to get the fourth one, and I borrow the first one from my brother, and I start reading it, and I actually finished it before they even got back from the bookstore.
The first book is a quick read.
It is a very quick read.
I will say that.
But
I'm not a fast reader, and I read it pretty quickly.
I am a fast reader. I have a bit of a photographic memory, so, like, my brain takes pictures of pages, and I read them by the page. I just, like, flip through, and I'm done. And so I read the first one. They weren't even back from the bookstore, so I started the second one and finished the second one. Started the third one, finished the third one, and I actually read all three of the first books in the time that it took my brother to read the fourth one. I finished a little bit before him, so I sat in his room and just stared at him. Are you done yet? Are you done? I need to read the fourth. Are you done? Can I read it? Are you done? Maybe I can read fast. Maybe you should just let me read it, and then I'll give it back to you so you can finish it. And he did not bite for that one, so I had to wait for him to finish. And then I got to read the fourth book, and I finished the first 4 books pretty much within one weekend. Thankfully, my brother reads pretty quickly too, not on the same level as me, but it really only took him the day to read it.
That's impressive. It took me much longer.
Yeah, it took him the day, and so I had all 4 books finished by Sunday night, and was immediately like, what what about the 5th one? Like, obviously there's more. Like, what I need more, and it just created such an addiction for me that I went back and I reread all 4 of them. And then anytime I got impatient waiting for the next book to come out, I'd just start at the beginning and I'd reread them all again. And then when it finally did get close to the 5th book coming out, I started at the beginning and I reread them all again. And one of the most fun things about the 5th book was I was actually working in a bookstore on my college campus at the time that it was released. And they did pre-orders for people who worked on campus. And I got to dress up like Hermione, and we got my brother to dress up like Harry Potter, and he had a very red-headed friend who dressed up as Ron, and the 3 of us delivered all of the pre-order books around campus, and we got a free copy of it ourselves. And
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. I still have a picture of it. I'll put it up on our Facebook page so you guys can see the amazingness of me in a wig and my brother, who's normally blonde, but we dyed his hair black for it. And then he's just
the amount of black hair dye that probably sold after
this movie. But yeah, so we dyed his hair black temporarily, and then his friend Jack was already just
he was
super redheaded. Like, there's no, probably still is. Haven't seen that kid in forever. They were like 13 years old at the time. I want to say I was 20, and ran into like a couple of other people on campus, and I'm like, yep. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and they're just looking at me like I'm crazy. And I never had other people around me so much that I didn't get to have the fans with me. It was always just like this thing that I internalized, and every time I wanted a fix, I just reread the books. And I honestly couldn't tell you how many times I've read them. Mike, he one time asked me how many times I've read the books, and when I couldn't tell him, he said, I can't believe I asked you a Harry Potter question that you didn't know the answer to. And I was like, that is not the same thing.
That's not
like, that's not fair. I like, it's countless times, and I'm not done reading them. I will reread them and reread them. I fall asleep to them now. I set a timer, 15 minutes audiobook, fall asleep, and just go through. I do it with other books too, but I've been doing it on loop with Harry Potter, preparing for this podcast, so.
Nice.
But yeah, so I have met a couple other people over the years that have had an interest in it. I have a friend, Jenny, who we dressed up. I was Ginny and she was Ron. We dressed up and went to see the 6th movie when it came out.
Nice.
And then I had a couple other friends who thought they were Harry Potter obsessed, and then they met me and realized that I was psycho and
they're
just fans. But yeah, I just, every time a new book would come out, I would reread them.
Yeah.
And then I would reread them more when I missed them, and then I would reread them. And when the last book came out, I went to go that's the only one I went to go pick up at midnight. And so I got to the bookstore at like 10 o'clock, and I stood in line, and I read the 6th book while I was waiting in line. And I got to the counter, and I got my book, and I tried reading it while driving home, which was really stupid, and I figured that out quickly, thank goodness. And so I put the book aside. I got myself home. It was about 1 a.m. And I got into bed. I started reading it, and I finished it by 6 a.m. It took me 5 hours to read the last book.
This is going to drive you crazy. Do you know how long it took me to read the last book?
How long?
I believe 2 years.
What?
How? I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let go. It started off as I wanted to reread the whole series before reading book 7. And I started it, that's how it began.
That's
in
how
my
it began.
mind. Yeah.
It starts.
Yeah, exactly. And I started a month or two before 7 was due to come out. And for some reason I got through 1 and 2 in an afternoon, like you do, because it's 1 and 2. 3 is my favorite book, so it's
the best one.
It is. And I didn't want it to end. And so I was like, I kept putting it off, and I kept putting off reading more, and I don't know how I did that.
Who are you?
Right? And yeah, I held off for 2 years before reading. Yeah. I got it at midnight, mind you. I was there at midnight with my best friend. And my best friend's like, every day on the phone, have you finished it yet? Did you even start it yet? What's going on? I need to talk to you about this. Yeah,
that would be me. I'm sad, but I'm also really glad I didn't know you back then.
Yeah, right?
So I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
She would get so angry. And then when I finally finished, I called her. I'm like, oh my God, I need to talk about this. And she goes, oh, now you want to talk about it?
Fine.
2 years later, you want to talk about it? And yeah, that's
amazing.
I couldn't let it go. Yeah. I was like, it was sitting there staring me in the face, and I was like, I'm not ready to know how it ends. I'm not ready. I needed to be at one. Is that the word? One with myself.
One with yourself.
I needed to be one with myself and with the Potter. Yes, exactly. And it took me I believe it was around 2 years. It's like a Facebook memory that comes up every year.
For me, it's just never ended. Like, even though I've gotten the end of the story, I can always go back and reread them.
Yeah.
So it's like the bigger thing is when I looked and saw when the first movie came out. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, how are we coming close to 20 years?
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, wait, no, just wait a minute. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. Really? No. And it doesn't feel like time has passed. It just, like, when it comes to Harry Potter, I feel just stuck in this just bubble. It's my own little world, and my own little wizarding world.
When you think back on how you, like, your life when you first started reading the books, doesn't it feel like an entirely different lifetime? Yeah. It feels like a total. I was in
high school.
Yeah, I was just fresh out of high school.
It was half my life ago.
It was 2002 when I really got into it.
My mom makes fun of me for being such a big Harry Potter fan, especially like every time I tell her about winning the trivia, she'll be like, "Don't like, why can't you apply?" No, she's like, "Why can't you apply yourself to something else?" And I was like, you do realize that I am just as good at teaching art as I am at knowing Harry Potter things. Like, yeah. Like I actually am really good. I'm a very good art teacher, if I say so myself. But like, I really have put like a lot of effort into my career. Mm-hmm. But I've put the time in with Harry Potter. I never tried to become an expert on it. It just happened. It's been half my life, and it's just been something that I revisit on a regular basis, and I know it like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm. I remember telling my mom I wanted to go to the first Harry Potter convention. At the time, it was called a symposium. As a book convention. Symposium.
Sounds so much classier.
It made us fancy. We were so fancy. And,
so fancy.
Well, that was the thing. It was the first thing my mom said was a symposium, like a convention, like Trekkies.
Don't ruin
like
this for me, Mom.
And I went, Mom, first off, it's not a convention, it's a symposium. And second off, we're not Trekkies, we're Potterheads.
We are Potterheads.
We're Potterheads forever. And
ever, and ever.
And so on and so forth. And yeah, I remember I went to Nimbus 2003. It was the very first Harry Potter symposium. And they're so much different than they are now, from my assumption. There were no special guests. There was no. I mean, that we had.
Well, now that like a lot of these things bring in the actors from the movies, and
exactly, and there was never like. I mean, we had special guests in the sense that I believe one of the keynote speakers was a woman. I'm really sorry, I can't remember her name now. Who did special effects on Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was very neat. She did like a nice PowerPoint presentation of the different layers of the effects and how things were done, and it was really amazing to watch that. But for the most part, it was just nerds. You and me. It was just nerds who wrote essays about Harry Potter and then presented them to panels of fanfic writers, and it was just the fans. That's all it was. It was the fans.
Which actually kind of segues us into something else we wanted to talk about. So we, like I said, we wanted to try and produce this podcast for you guys once a week. But we were also hoping, because Katie has such an extensive knowledge on the conventions and the fan base of it, since that was kind of her introduction to it, we were hoping to start
early fan base.
The early fan base. We wanted to also be able to start putting together an additional like supplemental specialty podcast that
focuses on the fandom.
Yeah, focus on the fandom. We've decided it's going to be called Potterheads: A History. And it's something that we hope to begin producing soon. We've got a lot of really cool ideas. Like I said, I think I've been overwhelming Katie with
a little bit.
So many. I'm like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And we have a Facebook page.
You're welcome, guys, because I have pulled her back a couple of times.
Oh, yes, yeah. And I try to listen. So
it doesn't always work, but
it doesn't. Sometimes I'm just... But, no, but we really want to bring you guys a lot of great content.
I'm excited about our cooking show.
I know. Oh my goodness.
I'm very excited.
That's something we really hope to get to is, in addition to both being bakers, we also don't suck in the kitchen.
Basically.
So we can make sweet things, but we also can make savory and tasty. And we do eventually want to try and put together a cooking show type thing.
Where we actually make things that were
inspired by the movie.
Yes, that was featured in the movie or the books.
Because we were looking at both.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just keep rolling. This has been I did a thing. This has been an intro to our podcast, so you can kind of meet us and get a gist for what it is that we want to try and do. Our next episode, we're going to start in with kind of like a rehash of what we talked about here, and then go right into a chapter summary, book movie comparison. We're also going to do a little segment that we are calling Potter Ponderings, where it could be things that we notice and it makes us ask questions that we're like, why would they do this? And it's not like a trivia question.
It's just
more like a, what do you think? There's no real answer to it, so we want to know what you guys think. Please, by all means, get on our Facebook and tell us what you think Potter Ponderings.
Submit your open-ended questions,
Submit your own Potter Ponderings, and we can address those in future episodes.
Or if you have an answer to them, tell us.
If you have an answer, yes, please, by all means. We are only two brains. We also want to do the Sorting Hat stories, like we mentioned before, and we kind of shared our own. So we'd love it if you guys would share your Sorting Hat story with us. And anything else that we might want to share would come after that. And we want to wrap up every episode with a trivia question.
And the trivia question for this week is, what type of sweet or candy did Dumbledore offer to McGonagall in Chapter 1 of Sorcerer's Stone.
So if you know the answer to this question, please go to facebook.com/JKRpodcast and look for the post that we made about it. You can comment underneath it with the answer and the code word Honeydukes. If you were the first person to get it right with our code word so that we know you listened to us and didn't just hop on our Facebook page, we will get in touch with you through Facebook and sort all of that
Send
stuff
you
out. Send you a little prize. You're gonna hit. That's gonna be a surprise. It's a surprise prize. So we hope to see you on Facebook. We'll have other links up there for all of our social media accounts. Give us a like. Subscribe to our podcast so you can get future episodes. And
thanks for listening. We hope you hear us again. I'm Katie.
I'm Ellen. Until the next time, just keep rolling.